I was in my friend's basement with a bunch of my closest friends, and we were all there joking around for an 8th grade graduation party. While I was laughing, I had a headache, a really, really bad headache that kind of interrupted my laughter. And then only minutes later, I threw up, passed out, and my friends urgently called 911.
Well, we got a call at 1 o'clock in the morning. We were awoken from a dead sleep.
It was, "Hi, Mrs. Thomas, it's Charlie. Brian's unconscious, and he's in the ambulance on his way to the hospital." About probably an hour into the car ride, got another phone call from the ER doctor at South Shore, asking us how far out we were, because he didn't know if he could have Bryan hold on until we arrived. We got to the hospital, and pretty immediately the doctor came out and put his arm around me and said, "We're doing everything we can to save him."
And the first thing I did just about was pray, because I didn't know what else to do.
He looked, all sort of curled up like this, and his eyes were wide open, and his eyes were pointing in two very different directions, and he looked worse than dead, scarier than dead. It was a moment I will never forget.
Bryan Thomas, strong and athletic, had never sprained an ankle or even had the flu. Now, suddenly, his brain was hemorrhaging. Doctors at South Shore Hospital fought to keep him alive, but knew they needed help. Boston Children's Hospital sent a special mobile unit with an ICU physician. They made the 36-minute drive back to Boston in 19 minutes.
They told us that within 30 minutes, all of his brain functions would have shut down.
The seriousness of Bryan's condition required a world-class expert. Dr. Ed Smith was supposed to be on a plane to Berlin that morning.
It was a 5-alarm fire. What we were trying to do was to relieve the pressure on the brain. And it really was moving as quick as you can to do the fastest and easiest thing possible to try to keep this young boy alive.
We just sat there and watched the second hand on the clock. At 9 in the morning, he came back in and he said, "It's looking good." And that was a moment we will never forget either.
But the doctors still had to tackle the root cause of Bryan's problem, or it could happen again.
He was born with something called an arteriovenous malformation, a tangle of blood vessels that grew funny right from before birth. There's no way you'd ever know you have it. There's no way it's detected. It's sort of a silent killer, unfortunately. And each time this thing bleeds, there's a 1 in 4 chance of death.
These malformations must be removed, and few places in the world have dealt with as many of them as Boston Children's Hospital. Dr. Smith worked with Dr. Darren Orbach.
We started the day with Dr. Orbach from radiology, looking at the blood vessels in very close detail and lay out the anatomy for me. And one of the things that's unique about this blood vessel malformation, this AVM, is it's a little bit like diffusing a bomb. There are several different pipes, if you will, and you have to know which ones that you cut first, because if you cut the ones that let the AVM drain before you cut the ones that feed it, then the AVM will explode during the surgery.
The 14-hour surgery to remove the tangled vessels was a success, but no one knew for sure how much damage Bryan had suffered and how much function he could regain.
The one thing that was really comforting was when Dr. Smith came in after he'd woken up and sat us down and said, given the location of the bleed and the damage, his personality is still intact, and you will have Bryan back.
Still, Bryan had suffered significant damage to the left side of his body, including the use of his left hand.
I would spend hours just relearning to walk, with 2 sweating physical therapists working together to just try to hold me up.
The physical therapists and the occupational therapists from Boston Children's were incredible. You become exceptionally close to the people at Boston Children's when you're there. They become your family.
So let me see the hand for a sec.
Dr. Smith and Dr. Orbach
Talk about the wrist. That's moving pretty good.
are in our thoughts literally every day. They are incredible people with incredible talent and skill, and obviously we owe our son's life to them, so it's hard to put into words the way we feel about them.
Supported by a dream team of caregivers at Boston Children's Hospital and his family, Bryan is making miraculous strides.
They said that in a year I made as much progress as they would have expected to make in my lifetime.
He put in the miles, the therapist put in the expertise, and the result is you got a kid here who has just blown through every expectation imaginable.
And Bryan has already started giving back. He raised $30,000 at the annual Eversource Walk for Boston Children's Hospital.
Just to go from someone who couldn't sit up in his hospital bed to walking 7 miles for Boston Children's was amazing.
Bryan is incredibly determined, and his determination has been unbelievable to watch.
If there's one thing that coming 30 minutes from death has taught me, it's to carpe diem and try to enjoy life as much as possible.